A Second Chance at Love. Previous episodes are available in playlist, a link is given in the video description. Episode 81. It is my fault. Frida's hand was tightly gripped. Sean's eyes were burning with fury as he berated, "Frida, what are you doing? Scoundrels!" Frida was unfazed and hurled more profanities in the young woman's direction, fervently wishing she could strangle the latter. A loud and crisp slap echoed in the air. Sean had just slapped Frida hard across her face. "What's gotten to you?" "She's my sister," Sean gritted through his teeth. Then, he cast a glance at his sister, Coralie. Coralie covered her face in pain. She had never been slapped in her entire life. Tears streamed down her face following the searing pain as she cast a bewildered look at the drunken Frida. "Sean, is this your girlfriend?" Contempt festered in Coralie's eyes. Frida was stumped, both by the slap and Sean's words. She sobered up instantly and froze on the ground, unable to utter a word. Sean led Coralie into the mansion to coax her, as well as apply some medicinal ointment to her injured face. "That young woman is his sister?" "Well, upon a closer look, they do look alike." Frida suddenly felt her body going weak as she slumped to the floor. "Sean, what is with the luggage? Was that your girlfriend?" "She sure is a friendly one, greeting me with a slap. If Mom and Dad know about this, she won't ever get to marry you." Coralie groaned. Sean had only arranged for Coralie to come to Harrington to follow up on the upcoming expansion projects. If Coralie hadn't encountered the handsome man on the bridge that night, she would have been in a much fouler mood. "Okay, I will make her apologize to you sincerely. She didn't know you were my sister and thought I was with another girl. It's only normal for girlfriends to be jealous under the circumstance, right?" Sean placated. In the end, Coralie just uttered the number of a license plate. "Sean, hurry up and investigate this car license plate for me, and I won't get mad at you, but I'm still going to be mad at your girlfriend." Sean immediately agreed to her request. Investigating a car plate was a piece of cake to him. "This is the car that bumped into yours, right? Was it a hit and run? You could have reported it to the police right away. Then again, we can also choose to resolve it ourselves," Sean said. He had noticed that Coralie's bumper was broken when he picked her up just now and assumed that she must be looking for the car owner who bumped into her car. "No, that's not it. You've misunderstood the situation, jumping to conclusions like your girlfriend. Just find out about the identity of the owner of the license plate. You don't need to worry about the rest. I was the one who bumped into his car, and I want to compensate him," Coralie explained. She was at a loss for words. Not only did she get slapped for no reason, but if her brother continued to misunderstand the situation, she might miss her chance with her crush. Seeing as his sister had finally calmed down, Sean headed out of the mansion and noticed Frida, who was sobbing uncontrollably in the courtyard. He made his way over, and Frida slowly lifted her head. "You drank yourself into oblivion and came over to slap both my sister and me but only suffered one slap in return. That doesn't seem fair," Sean said icily with a grim expression. "I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I'm really, really sorry. I was too reckless. Please forgive me, Frida pleaded as she carefully gauged the man's expression. In the end, Sean shook his head lightly and offered his hand to help her up. Seriously ill in the morning, Roxanne woke up extra early. She wanted to carry out the operation on the headmaster earlier. Usually, the blood pressure of patients would be lower in the morning. Coincidentally, the headmaster's surgery had to be done when the blood pressure was at a lower level. Otherwise, the risk would be higher. Lucian was still fast asleep and instinctively rolled over to hug Roxanne. She carefully wriggled herself out of his embrace. After she was done washing up, Roxanne went downstairs and was greeted by the sight of bouquets of flowers and roses on the table. Then, she glanced at the ring on her ring finger and smiled, finally feeling at peace with her life. After getting married, her life was blissfully uneventful. Madeline soon arrived to pick Roxanne up. The two of them were going to work together during the surgery. Roxanne urged Madeline to have breakfast. Over breakfast, Madeline told Roxanne that after having a mansion to herself, she had decided to get a kitchen helper as well. Hence, she was finally able to eat on time now. After they were done with breakfast, the two of them discussed the patient's medical condition on their way to the hospital. It was a rather complicated surgery that lasted from 7 until 9:30 in the morning. Both Madeline and Roxanne were fully focused on fighting the battle. In the end, they managed to deliver good news to the headmaster's daughter after getting out of the operating room. "Thank you so much, Dr. Jarvis and Dr. Xander. I really don't know how to thank you both." The headmaster's daughter was about to kneel before Roxanne and Madeline to thank them, but she was stopped by Roxanne in time. After giving some care advice to the headmaster's daughter, Roxanne bade goodbye to Madeline and headed to the research institute. She bumped right into Jonathan downstairs. "Hi, Roxanne. I'm here for a health checkup," Jonathan said cheerily. He was confounded by the hint of a sinister smile in Roxanne's eyes. At the registration counter, Jonathan was briefed on his health checkup details after he made his payment. He had selected a rather basic plan, covering a CT scan or ultrasound for his heart, liver, lungs, and kidneys, an electrocardiogram for his heart, and a full blood report. However, Madeline had already reminded the reception staff to add some health check parameters for Jonathan beforehand. "Mr. Queen, based on your current lifestyle of being sedentary and having an irregular diet, we would highly recommend that you include 2 additional health check parameters, which are gastroscopy and colonoscopy. These procedures only need to be done once and will ensure your health for years to come," the receptionist advised. Jonathan heartily accepted the suggestion. Meanwhile, the corner of Madeline's lips curled into a smile as she looked at the list of Jonathan's health check tests in front of the computer. "Ha! I'll do the gastroscopy. As for the colonoscopy, well, that's too private. I'll ask someone else to arrange a procedure that is less painful." Madeline then changed into her work attire and wore a white coat, hair cap, and a mask. She was certain nobody would be able to recognize her. Since Jonathan hadn't eaten anything, he proceeded with the gastroscopy first. She hurriedly arrived at the gastroscopy room and dismissed the doctor on duty. Jonathan's first experience with gastroscopy was excruciating. He vomited many times and threw up a puddle of acidic liquid. Madeline asked her assistant to comfort Jonathan when she noticed his discomfort. However, she continued with the gastroscopy, and her expression turned grim. Madeline realized that Jonathan actually had serious gastritis. What's the matter with him? I've never heard him mention this. Madeline's face turned impassive. After she was done with the checkup, she no longer felt the urge to tease Jonathan. Instead, she hurriedly checked out the gastroscopy scans. Why does he have such serious gastritis? If his condition continues to worsen, it could become stomach cancer. What's the matter with him? Why didn't he take good care of himself? Then, she immediately asked the gastroenterologist to take a closer look at Jonathan. Is it that serious? Roxanne had just arrived at the research institute and was about to change into her lab coat when Madeline called her. Roxanne, Jonathan has a serious case of gastritis. The situation is a bit complicated, with multiple polyps and some erosion. I was careless earlier and forgot to take some tissue samples for testing. Madeline's tone was full of concern. Don't worry, Madeline. Send the images to my phone, and I'll take a look. Besides, you're worrying too much. It might not be as serious as you think. I have other ways to treat this as well. What are you afraid of? As Roxanne spoke, Madeline quickly hung up the phone and sent over the test images. Roxanne looked at them for a long time, and Jonathan's condition was indeed very serious. She couldn't help but sigh in her heart. Jonathan was really pushing himself too hard. This might be caused by a combination of irregular eating habits and alcohol drinking. But fortunately, in Roxanne's opinion, this was entirely treatable. She would use modern medicine to kill the bacteria and then use her own blend of traditional medicine to restore balance. As long as Jonathan followed her medical advice strictly, he could probably recover in 3 months. So Roxanne replied to Madeline and asked her to relax and not worry too much. In the office, when Madeline heard that Jonathan could fully recover, she felt slightly relieved in her heart. Jonathan, who was still undergoing the medical examination, appeared unaffected and completed all the tests. Madeline looked at the other examination results, and everything was normal, including the colonoscopy. The only problem was only the condition of his stomach that was too severe. She immediately instructed the staff at the medical examination department to ask Jonathan to stay. Mr. Queen, the director would like to see you. Jonathan didn't realize it at first, but when he saw Madeline, he remembered. Ms. Zander, I forgot that you were promoted to the position of director. But I can tell that you're doing a great job managing things around here. I experienced the whole medical examination process today, and it was really impressive. Jonathan thought it was always a good idea to start with a compliment. Madeline's face didn't look good, but she still asked him to take a seat. However, I have a small suggestion. The doctor in your gastroscopy department seems to be a bit rough. You might want to advise her about it. Jonathan couldn't understand why Madeline's face suddenly became serious. Maybe being a director means she has to put on a serious face? With the intention of providing constructive feedback to improve the hospital's level of care, he spoke about his slightly unpleasant experience during the medical examination. Madeline was taken aback. She never expected him to complain about her. How dare this guy complain about me? She took out his examination report and asked mildly, Mr. Queen, may I ask some specific questions? Does your family have a history of gastric disease? Jonathan shook his head. When he realized that she did not pay any attention to what he said, he wondered if she was the sort of person who did not care about other people's advice. Okay. In your diet, do you eat foods with a high concentration of bacteria, or have you come into contact with some radioactive substances? Madeline continued to inquire while still keeping a stern expression. Jonathan shook his head again as he finally realized that there might be a problem with his gastroscopy results. So he asked, "Ms. Xander, is there something wrong with my stomach?" "Yes. It's a serious problem. You really don't take care of your health, do you? If you delay any longer, it might develop into stomach cancer. Do you understand?" Madeline's tone suddenly scared Jonathan. Is it really that serious?" Caused by medication. Madeline patiently explained to Jonathan the pathology, underlying causes, and potential future developments, as well as all the medical jargon in the examination report. Finally, she glanced at him and thought that being a layman, he probably couldn't understand it all. "I see. So it's the medication I'm taking that's the problem, right? If it continues, it will inevitably develop into stomach cancer. To cure it, I have to stop taking the medication and take good care of myself for 3 or 4 months. Is that right?" Jonathan summarized, making Madeline's job easier. He understood completely. "You've been taking medication for a long time? What kind of medication is it?" Madeline asked, seizing the key point. She couldn't help but be curious since he looked perfectly healthy. Jonathan hesitated for a moment, but Madeline raised her voice and adopted a serious expression. "In front of your doctor, it's best not to conceal anything. You must understand that this concerns your life." However, Jonathan still didn't speak and had a distant look in his eyes. Madeline became even more anxious, but when she saw the sudden melancholy in his eyes, she had to suppress her impatience and wait patiently. "I actually have a very severe case of depression." Jonathan suddenly smiled, but his smile was tinged with bitter self-mockery. Madeline was stunned. She had considered some other hidden disease but hadn't expected it to be depression. However, no matter how she looked at him, he didn't seem like a depressed person. Jonathan always gave her the impression of being a serious, reliable, and mature individual no matter when or where he was. How could he have depression? Madeline didn't really think it was absurd, but she just couldn't believe it. As a doctor, she understood the pain of depression better than anyone else. She was taken aback for several seconds, but Jonathan then turned around and smiled, saying, "It's hard to believe, right? Even my family doesn't know about this condition. Of course, now that I've told you, I hope you can keep it a secret." In the world of a patient with depression, everything was grey, desperate, and devoid of interest. How could that sort of life be connected to someone like Jonathan? He had led the Queen family to new heights and had always been riding the waves in the business world alongside Lucian. He always gave others the impression of being a sincere and earnest man. Madeline nodded heavily, promising to keep his secret. Fortunately, Jonathan's next sentence gave her some comfort. "Luckily, I don't know if it's the effect of the medication or my own mental adjustment, but many of my negative thoughts have disappeared recently. When I saw Lucian and his wife gradually getting together, I felt encouraged. Slowly, I'm feeling that my moods are becoming lighter." Jonathan looked at Madeline seriously and suddenly asked, "Do you believe me?" "Of course. I absolutely believe you," Madeline replied hurriedly. She quickly looked away, afraid of causing Jonathan any misunderstanding. At this moment, her feelings were complicated. The melancholy in his eyes made her feel like hugging him. "Well, now that we've found the problem, it's probably the medication you're taking is too stimulating to your stomach. So, if it's not necessary, don't take the medication anymore. Is that okay?" Madeline brought the topic back to the stomach problem, and then she realized that Jonathan was facing possibly two thorny issues: depression and stomach cancer. "Yes, I understand now. I will stop taking the medication. What kind of treatment plan do we have going forward?" Jonathan asked. "I just sent the examination report to Roxanne. I can handle the modern medical treatment part, but she's better at traditional medicine as well as acupuncture. Anyway, don't worry about it. You'll be fine in no time," Madeline promised in a heavy tone. Madeline prescribed some medication and instructed Jonathan on how to take it, then finally advised him to relax and trust the treatment. She also suggested that he should have a follow-up examination in a month if he was not afraid of a gastroscopy. Jonathan was indeed a little traumatized, so Madeline smiled sheepishly and promised that she would find him another doctor next time. After he left, Madeline informed Roxanne of his condition. "His medication caused this? What kind of medication did he take that could cause such serious damage to his stomach?" Roxanne asked out of professional habit, but Madeline had promised to keep the secret and brushed it off. "It's a type of sleep aid, and I don't know where he got it from, but I told him to stop taking it now. Please prepare some stomach-tonifying herbs for him." Hearing that, Roxanne agreed. After a long day of work, when Roxanne returned to the villa, the three little ones gathered around her. "Mommy, you must be tired. Have some water. Daddy said you always have to stand during experiments, so let me massage your legs." "Mommy, let me do it too. I'll massage your shoulders." Roxanne had a hunch that they wanted something in return for their attentiveness. "What do you want? Some toys or a trip somewhere?" She glanced at Archie, Benny, and Estella in turn and noticed that their eyes were indeed sparkling with anticipation. "We don't want a trip or any toys. We want to go to the orphanage and donate some money we've saved up. Can we?" Estella's face was filled with hope. Roxanne was taken aback by their initiative but immediately agreed. "That's a great idea. Why would I say no? I'll take you there tomorrow." At that, the three children were elated. When Lucian returned home, Roxanne told him about the children's request at dinner. Lucian smiled and praised the children. Coincidentally, it was the weekend the next day, so the family decided to go tomorrow. Later during dinner, Lucian was surprised to hear from Roxanne about Jonathan's severe stomach problems but was reassured when he learned that Madeline and Roxanne were taking care of him themselves. "Why don't we invite him tomorrow too? He's a workaholic who only knows how to work. It'll be good for him to participate in some other activities." "Sure. In that case, let's invite Madeline too. She has the day off tomorrow anyway. It'll give her a chance to interact with Jonathan more." Roxanne was halfway through her dinner but immediately called Madeline about it. Madeline was originally thinking of complaining after hearing the request, as she had plenty of work as a hospital director and was actually working from home on her day off. However, when she heard that Jonathan was also going, her heart stirred with interest, and she immediately agreed. Haha, as soon as you hear that Jonathan is coming, you agree. You're terrible at hiding your feelings. Roxanne teased. However, Madeline had different thoughts in her mind. Going to the orphanage and helping those children might give Jonathan some healing power against his depression. She didn't explain this, though. Yes, I'm all in for Jonathan now. You can make fun of me all you want. It's not like you're any different. You had been waiting for Lucian for so many years. After chatting for a few more minutes, they hung up. Then, out of the blue, Lucian asked about the wedding photo shoot. It's up to you. Whenever you want to do it, we'll do it. I've waited for so many years, so a few more won't matter. Roxanne's words made Lucian feel slightly nervous again, as they still carried a hint of resentment. Full of love over the weekend, Roxanne and Lucian took the 3 children to the orphanage. The children didn't reveal how much money they had raised for donation, and although Roxanne and Lucian were curious, they waited for the children to disclose it themselves. They first went to the supermarket and bought a lot of toys, snacks, and books. Then, they arranged for a medium-sized truck to deliver them directly from the supermarket to the orphanage. Madeline and Jonathan were already waiting for them when they arrived at the orphanage. Madeline wore a beautiful dress, while Jonathan dressed casually for once. The two of them had immediately made plans for the orphanage. Madeline had already arranged for a medical team to come and give the children at the orphanage medical check UPS. Meanwhile, Jonathan had contacted several sponsors overnight and secured free furniture and daily necessities for the children. The two of them had already talked to the orphanage director and were just waiting for Lucian's family to arrive. Upon arrival, the group was warmly welcomed, and with the help of the orphanage director, the 3 children quickly mingled with the other kids and started talking with them. It was clear that the staff at this orphanage had provided the children with good psychological care, as all of them were vibrant and full of energy. The entire process went very smoothly. The 3 children donated over 130,000, which surprised both Roxanne and Lucian since they never gave the kids pocket money before, as they didn't lack anything. Roxanne was a bit worried and looked at Archie and Benny, asking, "How did you save up so much money?" She was afraid that Archie and Benny had used their powerful hacking skills to make money illegally, but Estella piped up with an explanation. "It's not them. I was the one who earned most of the money by learning from Archie and Benny how to fix website vulnerabilities for clients. The clients paid me for my help and gave me a lot of money." Archie and Benny nodded. Of course, they also contributed by creating online courses and earning money through their website in a legal manner. Essie earned much more than us this time. But Benny and I will donate more in the future. The orphanage director smiled at the 3 of them and thanked them for their generosity. "Thank you. I'll make sure to tell the other children about what you've done so that they can also learn to help others in the future when they have the ability to." Meanwhile, Madeline and Jonathan were busy with their tasks. Madeline was conducting health check UPS on dozens of children with her team, which took some time to complete, while Jonathan was working with sponsors to improve the living conditions for the children, including replacing old beds and equipment with new ones. In the afternoon, the orphanage director and staff prepared a meal to thank Roxanne and her family for their visit. Before leaving, Roxanne, Lucian, and their children bid farewell to everyone, promising to come back and visit again. "We'll come back again, everyone." The director personally escorted them to the front door, expressing his sincere gratitude once again. This made Lucian feel a bit embarrassed, so he promised again that they would make further donations in the future. Jonathan and Madeline were still busy with their respective tasks, so Roxanne and Lucian didn't disturb them and let them continue their work. After Lucian and his family left, Madeline finally finished compiling the health check results and handed them over to the orphanage director. Some children needed further medical attention, which would require specialized equipment at a hospital. Jonathan also completed his task of improving the living conditions of the children. He felt a sense of relief and accomplishment as he looked at the result of his efforts. "I am terrible at this." Returning to the villa in the evening, Roxanne once again emphasized to Archie and Benny the importance of being discerning and cautious when helping others online to avoid being taken advantage of by unscrupulous individuals, such as being hired to hack websites or actively soliciting money while offering assistance. "Essie may not understand, but you too must. You have to help her watch out. Don't let your kindness turn into doing bad things," Roxanne emphasized. The two nodded and promised to be vigilant. Estella remained immersed in her joy, a simple emotion that came from helping others and feeling truly happy. One girl even gave her a beautiful hair clip, which she cherished. Soon, Elias and Sonia arrived in a car. Elias came to teach Archie and Benny how to play chess, which was not their first time. In just a while, the two children and Elias were immersed in the game, finding it challenging as they battled against each other. Meanwhile, Sonia came over to cook and make soup for the children. Lucian didn't say anything and went upstairs to work on his tasks in the study. Roxanne had been working to help Jonathan prepare his medication, but after finishing, she went downstairs to check on the situation. Suddenly, she heard a cry from the kitchen and rushed over. There, she saw Sonia with a painful expression on her face. Sonia's right palm was red and blistered as she soaked it in a basin of water. She rarely cooked and wasn't used to handling hot items. After finishing cooking the soup, she spilled some on her hand without noticing it had bubbled over. It was so painful that tears almost flowed from her eyes, but she held back and made no sound. "Mrs. Farwell, you got burned?" "No, you can't just soak it in water like that. Hurry up." Roxanne immediately grabbed Sonia's hand, removed it from the basin, turned on the tap, and held it under running water. The first step for a burn is to run cold water on it for 15 minutes. Just soaking it in water is not enough. Blisters may form soon. Roxanne spoke with a professional medical tone, while Sonia felt awkward at being held like that. Looking at Roxanne, Sonia said apologetically, "I'm really terrible at even this simple task." "I'm sorry, Roxanne." "It's okay, Mrs. Farwell. Cooking soup is something that can be left to the cook. You don't have to do it yourself." Roxanne knew that she was making up for what she owed Archie and Benny over the past 6 years. "I just wanted Archie and Benny to taste my soup. I didn't expect myself to be so clumsy." Sonia's initial awkwardness disappeared as she talked to Roxanne while her hand was being held. Staring at Roxanne, she began to feel different and strange feelings in her heart. Okay, I understand. Keep rinsing your hand, and I'll go upstairs to get some ointment. We'll have to apply it later. Fortunately, the burn isn't too severe, Roxanne instructed, rushing upstairs. Elias heard their conversation and went over to check on his wife. Why are you so careless? He scolded her, but his brows furrowed with worry, and his eyes were filled with anxiety. The children also heard the commotion and asked about Sonia's condition, expressing their concern. Grandma, are you okay? We won't drink soup next time, so you won't get burned, one of the children said. Grandma, does it hurt a lot? You can ask us for help or ask Daddy and Mommy to help you. Mommy said we have to be careful in the kitchen to avoid burns, another child said. While Sonia listened to the children's concerned words, her furrowed brows slowly relaxed. She shook her head and reassured them, I'm fine, don't worry. Your mommy will help me apply some medicine later, and I'll be okay soon. At that moment, she felt a sense of peace and warmth in her heart. She looked at her husband with a faint smile on her lips. Who is your employer? Following Roxanne's instructions, Sonia rinsed her hand under cold water for 15 minutes and felt the burning pain disappear instantly. Roxanne then applied her homemade burn ointment, which felt like a moisturizer, carefully on Sonia's hand and adjusted the cold air from the hairdryer to slowly dry the ointment. Sonia felt a refreshing coolness on the back of her hand, which was quite comfortable. Gradually, the redness caused by the burn started to dissipate, and Sonia realized the extent of Roxanne's medical expertise. With such a burn ointment, it could likely become a hot-selling product in the market. I'll serve the soup to the kids, Mrs. Farwell. You just sit tight, Roxanne said as she went into the kitchen. She tasted the soup and found it delicious before scooping it into bowls and serving them one by one. Archie took the initiative to bring Sonia a bowl of soup and said, Grandma, this is the soup you worked hard to make. You should be the first to taste it. Sonia wanted to decline, but Elias smiled and said, It's rare that you cook soup. In fact, this is probably the first time in your life. You should taste your own craft. Roxanne immediately handed Elias a bowl of soup. The children were next, and even Lucian was called over to drink soup with the family. By 9 o'clock that night, the children had to prepare for their baths and bedtime, and Sonia was reluctant to say goodbye to the 3 little ones. On the way home, Elias praised his wife without hesitation and encouraged her to continue on. He believed that Roxanne would forgive her someday. I know, but that's because Roxanne is kind enough. I shouldn't be thinking about seeking forgiveness all the time. I should be thinking about how to be a good grandmother and mother-in-law. Maybe I realized it too late, or maybe the realization came too suddenly. Sonia sighed. She realized that when she was a daughter-in-law in the Farwell family, her husband had protected her, and she had not suffered much. Elias didn't say much after that, but he believed that his wife would change for the better. Amidst the deafening beats of the DJ and the gyrating crowd, Electra felt uneasy in the noisy bar. She had always been associated with serenity and kindness from her early years to now. However, she found herself in this raucous scene, sipping on red wine, glass after glass, that had a tangy and slightly bitter taste. Although the bar's wine was subpar, it was strong enough to cloud her senses. If she persevered till the last drop, she could escape from her worries. When it came to facing Roxanne, Electra was aware that she stood no chance. Her heart was young and full of passion, but everything seemed futile. Suddenly, a dapper and somewhat attractive man who was wearing trendy clothes noticed her and went over. It was a common sight to see men prowling around solitary women in the bar. As he took a seat across from her, Electra grew agitated and coldly snapped, "Excuse me, I didn't invite you to sit here. Could you please leave me alone?" Had it been anyone else, they would have taken note of Electra's extravagant attire and the keys to her sports car resting on the table, and they would have probably stayed away. After all, these gave the impression that she was a well-to-do young woman from a wealthy and prestigious family. However, this particular man simply gave her a faint smile and was unfazed by Electra's irritable demeanor. "Excuse me, you're Ms. Lane, right? My employer wishes to have a conversation with you regarding an important matter. Would you be willing to meet with my employer?" "Get lost. I don't care who you are. I'm not in the mood right now." Electra ignored the young man and dismissed him altogether. She was in a bad mood and didn't want to meet anyone. "I think you would want to meet her. After all, she knows about your troubles and wants to help you. You must hate Roxanne Jarvis a lot, right?" the young man teased. His employer had said that if he mentioned Roxanne, Electra would agree to meet. Sure enough, Electra lifted her gaze and asked, "What's your employer's name?" "You are Aubrey Pearson." Following the young man, Electra got in the car, and it sped off to a cruise terminal where yachts and cruise ships from around the world were docked. It was a playground for the rich. She followed him onto a luxurious cruise ship from Hawaiian. The salty sea breeze blowing from the port jolted Electra into alertness, swiftly clearing the fogginess of her mind. "Is your employer from Hawaiian?" she asked. "Yes, Ms. Lane, don't worry. The whole cruise ship has been reserved, and there is no one else on board," the young man reassured her. With the presence of stern bodyguards flanking her on both sides since boarding the ship, Electra felt that she had no reason to feel apprehensive anymore. It was apparent that the individual who had extended the invitation was affluent and influential. Shortly after, she was escorted to a reception area, where a waiter respectfully poured her a glass of red wine. The waiter meticulously opened the bottle, swirled it, and carefully poured the wine into a tall glass while politely saying, "Miss, please enjoy." In Australasian, Electra lifted the tall glass and took a sip. She could tell the red wine was of high quality. While scanning the room, Electra's attention was drawn to a poised and elegant figure making her way toward the reception area. As Electra gazed upon the striking face that looked perfect from all angles, she immediately recognized that the face had undergone surgical enhancement, which was not uncommon in Hawaiian. Although such a face was impeccable, it had one critical flaw. The hospital employed identical proportions, resulting in many individuals having nearly identical faces. Fortunately, this woman possessed her own distinctive oval-shaped face, setting her apart from the sea of other women with rounded faces. Electra gazed at the young woman before her with a mixture of curiosity and intrigue. The woman appeared to be young and around the same age as her, but she couldn't recall having any friends from Hawken. As the woman reached for a tall glass and flashed a mature and alluring smile, even Electra couldn't help but acknowledge that she exuded an almost flawless perfection and a sultry aura that could entice any man to take a second look at her. "Hello, and who might you be?" Electra was still trying to figure out if the woman was from Han. The woman raised her glass and clinked it gently with Electra's with a playful glint in her eyes. "My name is Christina Patel." "Hello, Ms. Lane," Christina said lightly, downing the wine in one gulp without even savoring it. Electra was taken aback for a moment as she didn't recognize this name. "Hello, Ms. Patel. Do we know each other?" This last name was undoubtedly Haneset. However, this fluent Chilean accent was not common for a Haneset to possess. A complex look flooded Christina's eyes as she looked at Electra and nodded firmly. "Electra, we do know each other." Since the other woman even knew her own name, Electra's puzzlement and wariness increased. "Who are you? Why did you go through so much trouble to track me down? Do you have any association with Roxanne?" Electra's mind raced as she attempted to grasp the situation. "Don't be nervous. I didn't come here with any malicious intent. In fact, I came here today because I wish to collaborate with you. If you think carefully, I'm sure you'll recognize who I am." Christina reassured her, setting down her wine glass. The waiter promptly approached and refilled it. She picked up the glass again, her eyes full of interest as she looked at Electra. Suddenly, a thought struck Electra. "Are you Aubrey Pearson?" she exclaimed in puzzlement. The way forward Christina simply nodded in response. After 3 months, she had returned. From the moment she entered Han, there was only one thing that kept her going, which was revenge against Roxanne. Her family, her emotions, her body. Everything was lost because of Roxanne. In Han, she used her body to earn money for plastic surgery, a place to live, luxury cosmetics, and her current lifestyle. Fortunately, she eventually met the son of a powerful tycoon who gave her the financial capital for revenge. Although she knew she was just a plaything and eye candy to him, it didn't matter as long as she was favored now. This cruise trip alone cost several millions. Mr. Goldstein liked relationship dynamics as such, and for the past few days, she had done everything to serve him well. As Electra gazed at Christina before her, her shocked expression gradually eased. The Aubrey in front of her was quite unlike the Aubrey she had previously known. Had Christina not confessed, Electra would have even suspected deception. "Electra, do you believe me? I want to collaborate with you to deal with Roxanne." The loathing in Aubrey's eyes was palpable and impossible to conceal. "I understand. But tell me, what approach do you have in mind for our collaboration? And why me specifically? While I do have an interest in Lucian, I don't have a personal vendetta against Roxanne, just a mild dislike. I don't think my hatred for her is on par with yours." Electra didn't want to fall into Aubrey's trap so easily as she had yet to decide. Being aware of the Pearson family and Aubrey's fate added to her wariness. "I understand your reservations and that you don't have any deep hatred against Roxanne, but our goal is aligned. You can get close to Lucian while I can take my revenge against Roxanne." Aubrey knew that it wasn't easy to win over Electra, but a certain tinge of confidence was plastered on her face. With Mr. Goldstein's support, she now had more abilities at her disposal. So, what's the plan? Electra's interest was piqued. Indeed, all she wanted was to be with Lucian, and that was enough. The plan is actually quite simple. Roxanne isn't too suspicious of you right now, so if you try to get close to her and become her friend, that should be enough. Of course, you'll need to give me some information as well. We'll work together and bring Roxanne down. Christina's words were a bit vague. Electra furrowed her brows and asked, "Are you suggesting that we directly harm Roxanne? Have you heard of the story of the Damaris family? Roxanne isn't someone who can be easily taken down. Directly harming Roxanne would be foolish." Jack Damaris? Haha, he was a pitiful man. If he had worked with me in the beginning, things would be so much better now. Christina had spent a lot of money gathering information on Roxanne during her time in Harrington. She had learned that Roxanne had gotten together with Lucian and had 3 children with him. They were a happy family, and even Sonia had repented. Christina was consumed by hatred and pain, as if a dam had burst inside her, causing her to constantly grind her teeth and toss and turn in bed. The intensity of her emotions was so overwhelming that it left her with a constant ache in her chest. While she thought of all that, her eyes glimmered with anger and resentment. Of course, we won't cause direct harm. I know you wouldn't do that either. You don't want to get yourself in trouble, and I understand that. I can assure you that won't happen. If you don't believe me, wait and see for the next 2 days. I'll show you the plan and the way forward. Not used to it early in the morning, Sonia arrived at the mansion. She busied herself with helping the children wash up, chatting with them, and finally, having breakfast with them. She wouldn't let the servants help and insisted on doing everything herself. Her burn from the previous night had completely healed when she woke up this morning, which made her admire her daughter-in-law's medical skills. Lucian didn't object to his mother's actions and even let her take the children to school. When Roxanne woke up, she felt menstrual cramps and stayed in bed for a while. When Sonia returned after taking the children to school, she found that Roxanne had just gotten up, and Roxanne's face didn't look good. Sonia immediately realized what was going on. "Roxanne, since you're in pain like this, why don't you take the day off and rest? I'll make you a nourishing soup downstairs," Sonia said, and before Roxanne could react, she went downstairs to the kitchen. Shortly after, Lucian also called and asked if Roxanne was in a lot of pain. He suggested she take some painkillers to relieve it. "I'm a doctor myself, so I know what to do about it. You can focus on work, and I'll take the day off. It's just that Mrs. Farwell made soup last night, and now, she wants to make soup for me again. I'm afraid she'll get burned again." Lucian said with a faint smile, "Roxanne, just give her an opportunity to do it. This is her karma. Don't speak ill of your own mother like that. Anyway, I know what to do, and I'll take care of myself. Once my period is over, let's take our wedding photos," Roxanne replied. She still couldn't bring herself to call Sonia Mom, but Lucian didn't say anything about it. After showering and getting ready, Roxanne felt the pain had eased a bit, so she slowly went downstairs. Sonia came out of the kitchen, smiling. "It's almost done." This soup is something I've been drinking since I was young, and it's very effective for cramps. It'll nourish your body. Roxanne nodded and sat down while asking about the burn from the previous night. Sonia showed her hand and praised Roxanne's medical skills. She mentioned that many ladies were also interested in the burn medicine. Why isn't this medicine on the market? It will be a bestseller if it's produced commercially. Sonia asked curiously. Roxanne patiently explained, the medicinal ingredients for this medicine are very rare, and the production process cannot be commercialized, so it's not suitable for mass production. I only made a small batch to treat the children if they got burned. But from now on, I will stock up more for the family. I see. It's true that good medicine is hard to make. Stay seated for a while, and the soup will be ready soon. Don't worry. It's not very greasy, and it's very suitable to have as breakfast, Sonia said and returned to the kitchen. After a while, she brought the soup out, served a small bowl, and let it cool down. After finishing, Roxanne and Sonia sat alone together, feeling awkward. Sonia asked, "Do you need anything else? I can go and buy it for you." Roxanne shook her head and said, "No, thank you, Mrs. Farwell. This soup is really delicious." Roxanne began to drink the soup, which had a unique and fragrant aroma. She also praised Sonia's cooking skills. Sonia was rather embarrassed and eventually said she would help Lucian tidy up his study. When Roxanne saw her go upstairs, she finally relaxed a little. After all, Sonia was an elder who used to give off an intimidating aura. But now, she was polite and gentle, which made Roxanne feel a different kind of discomfort. An accident. Roxanne had 2 bowls of soup but found it difficult to finish the second. Despite that, she eventually managed to drink it all. When Sonia came down after tidying up the study, she was delighted to see that Roxanne had finished all the soup. "Mrs. Farwell, your soup is really well made and delicious." Roxanne praised the soup once again, causing Sonia to feel a little shy. Suddenly, Roxanne's lower abdomen started to ache again, so she decided to go upstairs and lie down. "If you like it, I can make some more later. You can have it for lunch or dinner," Sonia offered. Hearing that Sonia wanted to make more, Roxanne didn't want to refuse Sonia's kind offer, so she quickly changed the subject. "Mrs. Farwell, this soup is so good. Why don't you send some over to Lucian? He's been working hard lately and hasn't had a chance to get proper nutrition." Sonia thought it was a good idea and decided to make some more soup while Roxanne rested in her room. Over an hour later, Roxanne was dozing off when Sonia suddenly knocked on her door. "Roxanne! Roxanne!" she whispered softly, not wanting to disturb her. "Mrs. Farwell, what's the matter?" Roxanne asked. "Well, my car suddenly broke down, and I don't know what's wrong with it. I've called the body shop to come and take a look. But the soup is ready, and I thought I could bring it over to Lucian while it's still hot. Lucian's cars in the garage are either too uncomfortable or too big for me to drive. So, I was wondering if I could borrow your car for a bit." Roxanne thought it was a small matter and that the car keys were already hanging in the hallway, so there was no need for Sonia to ask her for them. However, she still politely replied, "Sure, no problem. The keys are hanging in the hallway." "Mrs. Farwell, Please drive safely." Sonia nodded and left the room. Arriving downstairs, she picked up the keys and turned to leave. The butler suggested that a driver could drive Sonia there, but she refused. "I want to do it myself. It's meaningful only if I personally deliver it. If you do everything for me, what use am I as a mother?" The butler couldn't argue with her and just reminded her to drive slowly. Half an hour later. Attention! Breaking news for all drivers on the road. We have received reports of a major traffic jam on the second ring road caused by a serious car accident. A vehicle collided with the guardrail, blocking 2 lanes and bringing traffic to a standstill. The police and hospital emergency teams were dispatched to the location. As a result of the impact, all airbags were released, and a female driver is currently unconscious. However, brave and kind-hearted Good Samaritans are lending their assistance at the scene. When Lucian received the call from the hospital informing him that his mother had been in a car accident, he froze for 2 seconds before urgently asking, "Is she okay?" "I'm Lucian Farwell from Farwell Group. Please treat my mother as soon as possible. I'm on my way." He suppressed his impatience and anxiously waited for a response from the other end of the phone. "She's okay. She's just unconscious due to head trauma. All vital signs are normal, and there are no other injuries or fractures. Please rest assured, Mr. Farwell. We will do our best to save her." When the doctor on the other end of the line heard Lucian's name, he suddenly became more serious and made a promise to do his best. Lucian finally felt slightly relieved when he heard the news that his mother was okay. He immediately had Caden prepare the car to go to the hospital. Taking the private elevator down, Lucian quickly informed his father of the situation. When Elias heard that his wife was involved in a car accident, he panicked. Lucian hurriedly told him what the doctor said. "Lucian, I'm on my way to the hospital. You're nearer to the hospital, so please hurry over as well." "How could this happen? Just before your mother left, she was still showing off to me about making soup for you. How could this happen?" Is this normal? When Lucian arrived at the hospital, Sonia was still in the emergency room. His arrival even startled the hospital director, who rushed over to check on Sonia and reassured them that she would be fine. "Mr. Farwell, your mother has regained consciousness, and all her vital signs are normal. She only suffered a mild concussion from the impact to her head, but as long as she stays in the hospital for observation, she should be fine." Lucian nodded and thanked the doctor before immediately going in to check on Soya. Sonia's expression was still a bit dazed, but when she saw her son, she immediately smiled. "Lucian, I got into a car accident, but thankfully I'm okay. Don't worry, I'm fine." Seeing the concern in her son's eyes, Sonia felt unexpectedly happy, as it had been a long time since she had felt her son's care. Lucian approached her and asked if there were any parts of her body that were hurting. Sonia shook her head. "I'm really fine. My head just got hit by the airbag. Fortunately, I wasn't driving too fast, but it's a shame about the spilled soup. You're involved in an accident, and yet, you're still worrying about soup? Why are you so careless?" Elias pushed open the door and walked briskly to his wife, grabbing her hand and checking her anxiously. He was worried that something might have been missed during the examination. Seeing her husband's nervous appearance, Sonia felt even happier and said with a smile, "I'm really fine. I wasn't paying attention, so I got into an accident." "Oh, and I'm sorry about Roxanne's car." Lucian immediately said, "Mom, the car isn't important. We can just buy another one." "But what about you? Did you not rest well, and is that why you lost concentration?" "No, I don't think so. But I felt like the brakes were acting up. Fortunately, I was the one driving. If it had been Roxanne and if she was driving fast, it could have been worse." Sonia's offhand remark caused both Elias and Lucian to freeze and their expressions to turn serious. "Mom, are you saying that the brakes failed? That was Roxanne's car?" Lucian's heart skipped a beat, and he felt that this accident was not as simple as it seemed. Elias' gaze confirmed Lucian's suspicions. "Lucian, go to the traffic department and find out what happened. I'll stay here with your mother." Elias nodded slightly, gesturing for his son to leave. "Okay, then stay with Mom. Let me know if anything happens." "I'll go to the traffic department." Lucian turned and left in a hurry. This made Sonia roll her eyes at her husband. "Our son finally showed concern for me, and you made him leave in such a hurry. Why are you in such a rush? You're too carefree. A sudden brake failure isn't normal at all. Plus, Roxanne was still using that car yesterday. How could it just coincidentally fail today?" Elias revealed the seriousness of the situation. Sonia thought about it, and her eyes widened in shock. "Are you saying that someone wants to harm Roxanne?" "Coincidentally, I borrowed her car, and because I usually drive so slowly, the accident wasn't serious." Elias frowned and looked at her. It was Sonia who had initially reminded them of this possibility. "Didn't you mention it yourself earlier? Did you not think of this?" "I was just joking at first. How could I have thought of such a sinister plot? Who could it be? And how did they have the opportunity to tamper with the car?" Sonia's questions were what confused Elias as well. Do not underestimate Lucian. Perhaps it was the effect of the soup that Sonia had made, but Roxanne slept well, and her pain was greatly reduced. Soon, Lucian called, and it was only then that she learned that Sonia had been in a car accident. Not long after, he returned to the mansion. He asked Roxanne with concern, "When did you stop using the car? Has it been sent for repairs?" It was only then that Roxanne remembered that Sonia had used her car today. What a coincidence that Mrs. Farwell got into an accident. She trusted Lucian's judgment and thought carefully. "I haven't been to the body shop recently. Yesterday was the last time I drove it. However, I did feel that the brakes were not working properly at the time." "Where do you usually park your car? Have you lent it to anyone recently?" Lucian asked carefully. Someone was already targeting her, and he could not overlook any clues. Roxanne's recent schedule was really fixed, so she was either at home or at the research institute every day. Only occasionally would she go to the hospital or company. She thought about it and told him her itinerary for the past 3 days, and she had not lent her car to anyone either. Lucian frowned. "Someone definitely tampered with the brakes on your car. Listen, let Linda and Madeline arrange for someone to check the surveillance footage of your parking spot for the past 7 days. Is Mrs. Farwell okay now? I'll go to the hospital to see her." Roxanne nodded but still asked about Sonia's condition. Don't worry, my mom is okay. She's in the hospital now, and my dad is taking care of her. Fortunately, it was my mom who was driving the car, and she was going slow enough. If it had been you going at 70 kilometers per hour instead of 40 like her, the damage and injury would have been completely different. Lucian knew that if Roxanne had been driving today, she would have been seriously injured in this morning's accident. Seeing his serious expression, Roxanne also felt scared. She immediately called Linda and Madeline to assist in checking the surveillance footage. Not long after, the traffic police called Roxanne to confirm that the car was hers and had been temporarily taken to the traffic police's parking lot. The inspection results showed that the brake system had a serious malfunction, and there was reason to suspect it to be sabotage. Ms. Jarvis, this accident has caused injuries to your family member. In the future, the police may conduct a series of investigations and evidence collection. Please cooperate with us. Roxanne agreed to do so. Lucian didn't waste any time and called Caden to go to the traffic police department to check all the surveillance footage of Roxanne's routes for the past few days. After 10 minutes, Roxanne changed her clothes and went to the hospital with Lucian. In this car accident, Sonia had replaced her as the victim. It was really coincidental that she had her period that day and didn't go to the research institute. Coincidentally, Sonia's car was broken, and Sonia used her car instead. Was it really just coincidence? At that moment, two figures sat in the back seat of a black Mercedes business car parked downstairs at the hospital. Christina wore a hat with a low brim that covered most of her face. Beside her was Electra, who was wearing oversized sunglasses that made it hard to recognize her. Electra, do you believe me now? This car accident was just a little trick. Of course, you'll be the real deal. Only you can make things more complicated. Christina's mouth curved into a smug smile. But Electra was suspicious and retorted, Christina, you said you wouldn't cause direct harm anymore. Don't underestimate Lucian. You might slip up and expose yourself, and then he will catch you again. Feel my pain, however. Christina smiled confidently, her eyes brimming with mockery. How would Roxanne ever guess that I sent someone to tamper with her car brakes when she stopped her car at the roadside to help the elderly folk to cross the road? It was also a junction where there were no surveillance cameras around. Christina was certain that her plan was flawless. Electra was rather taken aback. She had not expected Christina to make a comeback with a revenge plan that not only kept her impulsivity in check but was also well thought out in every other aspect. So, what chance would I be getting after this, then? Deep down, Electra still felt that at this point, it would be impossible to break up Lucian and Roxanne. Based on what she heard, even Sonia had begun to attend to Roxanne's needs. Moreover, Lucian had also proposed to Roxanne and would be taking wedding photos with her. Their next step would naturally be to remarry. Christina shrugged, but her expression remained confident. You'll get your opportunity. Just think about it. Why was Sonia driving Roxanne's car? Sonia's mind hasn't yet arrived at the bad thoughts, but you could help her in that regard. Although Sonia ended up being the target of the car accident instead, the incident did not cause too much damage. Christina was rather disappointed about that. Back then, it was with Sonia's support that Christina destroyed everything. She would not have been able to do it without Sonia. Yet, Sonia was now turning back, voluntarily serving Roxanne instead. The scheme was originally meant for Roxanne but unexpectedly affected Sonia. However, regardless of whether Roxanne or Sonia was injured, they were both important to Lucian. He would definitely get to the bottom of this. Electra froze for a moment before she finally caught on to what Christina meant. "How are you feeling, Mrs. Farwell?" asked Roxanne with concern after she entered the ward, carrying a fruit basket and a bouquet of carnations. "If you guys had come slightly later, we might have already left the hospital," responded Elias with a relaxed smile. Lucian, on the other hand, could not manage a smile. Although the car accident did not cause too much harm, the danger that underlay it was too great. "I'm fine, Roxanne. Aren't you feeling unwell yourself? You didn't have to come and visit me personally," stated Sonia, who was genuinely in a mellow mood. It had been a long time since she had received so much care and attention from her family. If her injuries were not so minor, she even hoped to remain hospitalized for another few days. "Are you really well enough to be discharged?" Roxanne was still a little worried. After all, Sonia had hit her head, which could have caused complications of any level of severity. Due to her professional habits as a physician, Roxanne immediately picked up the medical records at the side of the bed and studied the test results carefully, especially the CT scan result. "I'm really fine, Roxanne. The doctor has reviewed my test results several times, and I don't have any signs of bleeding in my brain. It's fortunate that the airbag in your car worked in time." After checking the test results thoroughly, Roxanne finally confirmed that Sonia was indeed fit enough to go home. With Elias' help, Sonia got out of the hospital bed, packed her things briefly, and left the hospital with the bouquet in her hands. As Lucian had to rush to the traffic police department, he asked Roxanne to send Elias and Sonia back. Roxanne had no problem with it, but Sonia shook her head, saying, "You're obviously still feeling ill yourself." "It's fine. Elias can drive me back." In the end, as Sonia was persistent, Roxanne had no choice but to agree to the suggestion. Practically geniuses at night, when Lucian returned to the mansion, Roxanne shot him a meaningful look to stop him from mentioning Sonia's accident in front of the children. "Daddy, Mommy, I've signed up for a computing competition, and it's an international competition too," said Benny eagerly. Lucian immediately rubbed the child's head and praised, "That's great, but remember to have mercy on the other children, okay?" Benny's hacking skills had currently reached a level of expertise that shocked even Lucian. Archie, who also wanted his father's affection, hurriedly announced his news next, "Daddy, I joined a variety show called Mega Brain and came in first in the qualifying round. The production team invited me to the final round. May I go?" Roxanne could not help but feel rather astonished as well. These children! What have they been up to when we weren't noticing? Lucian picked Archie up in his arms at once and planted a huge kiss on the child's face as he complimented, "Your memory is even better than a computer's. You should go ahead and join the finals if you want. I promise to be there with you." Estella began to feel desperate. After some thought, she quickly chimed in as well, "Daddy, Mommy, I sent a famous designer from pay a copy of my design." After seeing Elias and Sonia off, Roxanne called Madeline and asked the latter to pick her up. Madeline easily agreed to give her a lift. After all, she had heard that Sonia was involved in a car accident and was curious to find out what happened as well. Not long after, Madeline arrived at the hospital and drove Roxanne away. In a Mercedes, the moment Christina saw Roxanne's face, she immediately felt her blood boil with rage. She trembled violently as her face flushed red with anger. "The game has only begun, Roxanne. This time, I'm going to make sure you feel my pain." He offered to accept me as his apprentice, but I'm still young and don't want to go abroad yet. Both Lucian and Roxanne were struck dumb by this news. "Which famous designer is that? Is he a legitimate designer?" asked Lucian in a serious tone. He could not help but be worried that Estella might have fallen for a scam. Right then, Archie and Benny both helped to explain. "I was the one who helped Essie find the designer. He's really a renowned designer ranked third worldwide. It's Bernard Brown, the designer behind many famous brands. Yes, since Essie isn't very proficient in sending emails in Australasian yet, I helped her with the translation. The replies that came from his end are still in my inbox, and they're really from Mr. Brown's work email." Roxanne and Lucian exchanged looks. Are our genes really so powerful? Our children are practically geniuses. Bernard was a legendary figure in the fashion world. Upon hearing his name, Roxanne and Lucian were suddenly at a loss about what to do next. Despite that, they did not forget to shower Estella with the mandatory praises and kisses. In the end, it was Estella who suggested, "I will apprentice with Mr. Brown after I've grown up a little. For now, I will focus on improving my Australasian first and catch up with Archie and Benny. They're so smart and have already learned several languages." The family chattered harmoniously for a while before Archie and Benny asked about Sonia. It turned out they had found out about Sonia's accident from the news and had known about it the whole time. To reassure them, Lucian took out his phone and gave his mother a video call. Sonia and the three children chatted happily for almost an hour. Seeing that their grandmother was fine, the three children finally felt relieved. At the Farwell main residence, Sonia hung up the video call and burst into tears abruptly. Seeing that, Elias, who was just walking over with a sliced apple, immediately asked, "Weren't you having a good conversation with the children?" "That man from the north, it was late at night. The children were already asleep." Roxanne, however, was having an episode of stomach ache. She was hurting so much that she could not even straighten her back. As Lucian gave the woman a massage, he nagged at her at the same time, hoping she would cut herself some slack at work. "This side effect must stem from my poor confinement period years ago. Now, it's back to haunt me," whined Roxanne. Lucian was racked with guilt at those words. The tumult of his emotions got the better of him as he started to blame himself. With the warmth and moderate pressure coming from the man's palm, Roxanne could already feel her pain slowly subsiding. "It's not that serious, actually. It only hurts on the first day. I bet I'll be fine tomorrow morning," she comforted Lucian. The duo eventually brought up the car accident. According to the investigation carried out by the traffic police at each junction, including the surveillance footage provided by Linda and Madeline, there wasn't any opening for anyone to even get close to your car. "Why are you suddenly crying?" "I'm just too happy," I've never been happier in my life. Look at how much my grandchildren care about me. I'm finally experiencing the true joys of being a grandmother." Sonia was, in fact, shedding tears of joy. She realized that despite not receiving the complete forgiveness of her daughter-in-law, she was experiencing real joy right now. Why have I never thought of looking at things this way? I must have been out of my mind to have treated Roxanne so badly. It's wonderful, isn't it? Life certainly changes once our attitude does. Elias smiled as he passed her the apple. Is it because the brakes have really worn out? After Lucian summarized all available leads at that point, he gazed at Roxanne expectantly. Maybe she'll recall some tiny details that I may have overlooked. Then again, the car's still brand new. It's absurd for the brakes to fail so soon. The deduction made by the traffic police couldn't be wrong. Lucian was quick to perish the thought he just had a minute ago. It was then that something popped into Roxanne's head. I think I might have stopped the car somewhere yesterday night to help an old lady cross the road. But I only spent about 6 or 7 minutes doing that, I guess. No matter how she racked her brain, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. That was the only lull she could think of so far. Immediately, Lucian's eyes lit up. Really? Which junction did you stop at? Can you remember? Without deliberation, Roxanne detailed the location of the said junction. Lucian, in turn, rang Caden up and asked the latter to have the traffic police begin another round of investigation at once. Half an hour later, all of Lucian's hope went down the drain. The last thing he expected to hear was that the surveillance cameras at that very junction had been faulty the night before. For a moment there, he could not help but feel all the more heavy-hearted. It seemed that it was those 6 to 7 minutes that had granted an opportunity for the perpetrator to tamper with the brakes. That person was even well aware that the surveillance cameras were out of order. What a meticulous strategy! Could it be Sean? Lucian's visage gradually turned as cold as the winter. It's about time I meet that man from the north. In the meantime, Sonia was recuperating from the accident at the Farwell residence. She had just taken the medicine prescribed by the doctor from the hospital and was about to turn in early that night when a car drove into the courtyard. It was Electra. She rushed into the house, seemingly worried about Sonia. "Mrs. Farwell. I was just back home, and my parents told me that you were in a car crash. How are you feeling? Is everything all right?" Her anxious gaze was shining with sincerity. She approached Sonia and scrutinized the old lady from head to toe. "I'm fine, really. It's so late already, Electra. Why did you come all the way here? You could have just called me." Sonia beamed. "I'm glad that you're okay. I was freaked out. What exactly happened?" Electra simply had to ask the obvious. Putting up a front must be her forte. After recounting the whole incident to Electra, Sonia unwittingly added, "Luckily, it was me who had gotten into that accident. Had it been Roxanne instead, she would have been severely injured, considering how fast she would usually drive." The second Electra heard that remark, her mien changed subtly. Even her eyes became frosty. Nevertheless, she managed to conceal her grim expression in no time. She must have decided to turn over a new leaf, huh? Thank goodness I wasn't swayed by her. Electra secretly gnashed her teeth. On the surface, however, she had to muster a smile so bright. It was such a coincidence, wasn't it, Mrs. Farwell? You even managed to save Ms. Jarvis the trouble. Lady Luck must smile on her. Eh? Why must she talk like that? Something's off with this girl. Even so, Sonia chose to dismiss her doubt as she continued wearing an amicable countenance. Thank you for your concern, Electra. It's getting late. I want to rest early. You should also go home and tell your mom and dad that I'm fine. An issue with the payment. Meanwhile, a recently developed office building officially launched in Harrington as an enterprise brand that day. Out of the 100-odd stories of the building, 20 of them belonged to Crawford Heights Group. Coralie was clad in business attire as she sat in the chief financial officer's office, busy auditing the export sales for that month. As soon as she concluded the statistical report, a broad grin was etched on her face. She hastily picked up the phone and dialed her brother's number. Congrats, Sean. Our sales have skyrocketed again this month. Compared to last month, it has increased by more than 130%. We'll be realizing your plan in no time. The business world is no different from a battlefield. Coralie was awed by Sean's capability. We're still far from achieving our goal. To think that we could generate that many sales by poaching just 3 of Farwell Group's clients, I wouldn't dare to imagine how good Lucian is at running their business. Responded Sean. Instead of being consumed by conceit at that transient success, Sean began to see Lucian's terrifying control. In fact, his newly founded company was barely even 1/10 of Farwell Group in size. Unlike Farwell Group, which had their headquarters already taking up 2 blocks of building, not to mention having their very own massive industrial area, all Sean owned were 20 measly stories within an office building. Commend them if you must, Sean, but there's no need to belittle yourself. We're not based in this southern city, so we ought to take it one step at a time. Anyway, this is only the beginning. I believe in you. Coralie did not forget to sing her brother's praises. After hanging up the phone, she completed her work and shut down the laptop. The corner of her lips curled upward slightly without her knowing it. As comical as it might sound, the man who had been involved in the car accident turned out to be Jonathan, Frida's elder brother. It was as though the fate of both ladies and their brothers were inextricably intertwined. Then came a knock on the door. "Come in," answered Coralie. Frida entered the office with an upright demeanor. She was appointed the Deputy Chief Financial Officer of Crawford Heights Group, or rather, Coralie's assistant. Regardless, she could not have asked for a better job than that. To be managing the finance of a trading company that big, she had found more pleasure than overseeing those 14 medicinal herbs suppliers prior to that. "Ms. Crawford, I've finished compiling the statistics on our goods importation. Please have a look." Frida raised her gaze to sneak a peek while submitting the report. For some reason, she feared Coralie. On the flip side, Coralie was all smiles. "You don't have to be rigid when there are only 2 of us, Frida. Just call me by my first name. Oh, by the way, let's have dinner together after work." Frida bobbed her head. Deep down, she was worried that Coralie might hold a grudge against her because of the tight slap she had given Coralie the other night. Lowering her head a little, Frida stepped out of Coralie's office and went back to her own office. Frida's office was nowhere close to being as majestic as Coralie's. Still, it was spacious enough for her. The company had even assigned a secretary to help her. Frida knew very well the reason Coralie would play up to her all of a sudden. What she did not know was how Coralie had gotten acquainted with Jonathan in the first place. That woman has to have a thing for Jonathan. How ridiculous! If they really end up tying the knot, what would that make our relationship? Frida's mind was abuzz with chaos as she tried to figure it out. Out of the blue, her secretary barged into the office in a panic. "I have something to report, Ms. Queen." Noticing the anxiety brimming in the secretary's eyes, Frida prompted on the spot, "What's wrong?" "There seems to be an issue with the payment from some of our clients. The 3 new clients had yet to remit us their outstanding balance, and they're way past the grace period allotted to them. If they still don't pay up, our suppliers will be the first to come after us." Frida froze at that revelation. Aren't those 3 clients the ones personally secured by Sean not long ago? Among them was Paolo, the man who had openly turned his back on Lucian. Given the situation at hand, idling about was not an option for Frida. Once again, she made a beeline for Coralie's office. Provocation. Coralie panicked as well after learning about the situation. Indeed, import and export trade was very prone to pitfalls. Regardless of how profitable the business might be, the most crucial aspect was whether the payments could be recovered. She hastily relayed the news to Sean. "I'll ask Danny to look into it immediately." Sean became serious as well. He had handed the entire list of Farwell Group's clients in a pay to his assistant, Danny Yeager, to handle. After Danny received the instruction, the first person he contacted was Paolo. A few minutes later, Danny reverted to Sean. "What?" "The number was terminated." Sean was livid. "I'll try contacting the other 2 clients. Perhaps this is just a temporary issue." Mr. Paolo often gets into unnecessary trouble and frequently changes his phone number. Danny tried to explain that it might just be a coincidence. However, he was actually distressed as well. He braced himself, hung up the call, and continued to dial the numbers of the other 2 major clients. The increase in sales performance that month was mainly due to the 3 clients they snatched from Farwell Group. If the deals with all 3 of them encountered problems, it would be disastrous. Soon, he received feedback after making the 2 phone calls. Both numbers were also terminated. Danny became terrified. He hurriedly searched the contact details of the 3 clients' companies. According to the information provided on the internet, he dialed the numbers with trembling hands. The result was the same: the calls couldn't be connected at all. Danny didn't know how to report that to Sean. He felt so disconcerted that his head was about to explode. Sean was initially enjoying a glass of red wine at his villa, planning to go for a swim later. However, he was no longer in the mood for that. "Danny hasn't gotten back to me after so long, which means something must have gone wrong." He swiftly changed his clothes, got into his Bentley, and headed to the company. When he arrived at the CEO's office, Danny was already standing by the entrance, the latter's face gloomy as if he had been constipated for years. "Did everything go wrong?" Sean pushed the door open and walked in. Before receiving Danny's reply, He had already thought of the most probable reason behind the occurrence of that predicament. Perhaps all of this is a trap set by Lucian to trick me. Sean's eyes darkened while Danny shivered and lowered his head, not daring to look up. At that moment, someone knocked on the door. Mr. Crawford, a guest sent over a flower basket and insisted you view it. After all, that was their first day of moving into the building. Many guests had been sending flower baskets to them since morning. Most of the gifts were either placed downstairs or at the entrance of the company. Danny frowned. Who is this impertinent businessman who ridiculously requested Mr. Crawford to look at a flower basket in person? He immediately snapped at the secretary, "Don't bother Mr. Crawford with such trivial matters. Just find a place to put it." A troubled look spread across the secretary's face. "Ms. Crawford told me to send it over, and the sender of this flower basket is Lucian from Farwell Group." Sean grimaced and instantaneously strode out of the office, startling the secretary. As expected, he's the culprit. Sean riveted his eyes on Lucian's name. Haha, what a provocation! The secretary was utterly frightened by Sean's facial expression, which was now contorted with barely suppressible rage. Danny hurriedly stepped out of the office to take a look too. Colors drained from his face as he glared at the secretary. Isn't this just a deliberate attempt to get on Mr. Crawford's nerves? So, those 3 clients actually pretended to betray Lucian and scammed a large sum from us that amounted to several $100 million. Ultimately, Sean restrained himself from smashing the flower basket, as doing so would be beneath him. However, that would leave him with no outlet to vent the anger within his chest. Without saying a word, he turned around and returned to his office, slamming the door shut behind him. Not long after, loud sounds of the office getting thrashed, and objects being shattered reverberated incessantly in the air. Jibe that night, Sean received a phone call from his family and endured a torrent of scolding for half an hour. Coralie also wore a grim expression, as she knew Sean's failure to manage the company well would mean she had to return to the north and face those decrepit old folks again. The northern climate was too dry and had deleterious effects on her skin. Nevertheless, her mood remained upbeat because she had successfully invited Jonathan for a meetup. Coralie had asked him out by using the excuse of wanting to reimburse him for the car damage, but he had rejected her flatly. Then, after a bit of coaxing, he finally agreed to let her treat him to a meal as an expression of her apology. Through constant inquiries with Frida, Coralie finally understood Jonathan's personality better. He was a relatively rigid person. Regardless, she found his cool character to be attractive. When Sean exited his room, Frida hurriedly served him a glass of coffee, not daring to say much as she worried that any attempt to comfort him might only upset him further. "Sean, it's just a few $100 million. There's no need for them to be so mad. I don't know what those old folks at home are thinking, fussing over this insignificant amount of money. Competing with Farwell Group is bound to involve losses. Didn't you also cause Lucian to lose money recently? This just proves that he's a worthy opponent." Coralie's consolation struck a chord and immediately calmed Sean down. Even his tense expression somewhat relaxed. "You're right. Still, we can confirm Lucian is targeting us now. In that case, there's no need for us to be furtive anymore. We shall face him head-on. But I'm curious why those A-pay clients are so hard to sway. Are they really that loyal to Lucian, or does he possess some dirt on them? This time, Sean suffered a loss without fully grasping the reason behind his defeat. Coralie contemplated for a few moments but couldn't provide him with an answer either. Frida hesitated to speak. Noticing that, Sean flashed a faint smile and said, "If you have something to share, go ahead. You probably know more than we do." Only then did Frida begin to explain in a soft tone, "I heard from my brother that Lucian personally nurtured these AP clients from scratch, so they likely reported to him right after we contacted them. I even suspect Mr. Paolo's visit was specifically to locate us." Coralie narrowed her eyes and chimed in, "So, Mr. Paolo deliberately pretended to be a lecher to lower our guard. At the same time, Lucian arranged for the other two people to cooperate with Mr. Paolo to swindle our goods. A group of 3 clients was just right, not too many to raise suspicion, yet not too few to make us feel unmotivated." After listening to her analysis, Sean mulled over his erroneous judgment. In the end, he gritted his teeth and said, "Ultimately, we underestimated Lucian." Indeed. Lucian's working style is very complicated, sometimes sincere, sometimes domineering, and sometimes cunning, making him hard to predict, Frida said objectively after she noticed Sean had regained his rationality. Coralie curled the corner of her lips into a sneer. "Sean, he really is your biggest rival in this lifetime. You must try harder to avoid suffering overly humiliating defeats." Sean shot a cold glance at his sister, warning her, "That goes without saying. I'll bear my own responsibilities. As for you, I suggest you practice more caution when interacting with Jonathan to avoid revealing anything to him." Frida mentioned her brother has little interest in women, so you shouldn't be too confident either. The siblings jibed at one another in a light-hearted manner. Frida figured she would need more time to adapt to that kind of atmosphere. To the best of her recollection, her arguments with her own brother would always escalate quickly. The perfect match. Lucian and Jonathan talked business over coffee in the mansion. There had been no further progress in the investigation of the cause of the accident. Upon discovering that his sister was employed in Sean's company, Jonathan wanted to call her back for questioning, but Lucian stopped him. "It was Sean who asked old Mr. Lomax to help us. Though it was Roxanne who had synthesized the antidote, old Mr. Lomax's help was crucial. I believe Sean wouldn't stoop to employ such tactics. We can eliminate his involvement with confidence." Jonathan nodded. The logic was sound. The Crawford family from up north was prestigious, controlling many estates and societal elites. Coming from such a family, Sean would be discreet if he were to be unscrupulous. "Have you been taking your medicine regularly?" Lucian suddenly asked. Jonathan nodded. "I have been taking Roxanne's traditional medicine as prescribed. Dr. Xander told me to go back for a follow-up at the end of the month." "That's good. Madeline is very concerned about your condition," Lucian reminded him subtly, hoping Jonathan would be able to pick up the hint. To his surprise, Jonathan looked a little embarrassed. "Yes, Dr. Xander has a gentle personality and genuinely cares for people." Lucian narrowed his eyes. "There seems to be something going on here. Did something happen after our last visit to the orphanage for donations?" However, he did not feel comfortable asking about it. As Jonathan had always maintained a serious demeanor around him, he could only behave the same. Noticing something unusual in Lucian's gaze, Jonathan asked, "What's wrong, Lucian?" "And nothing. Keep an eye on Sean from now on. He lost this time, so he definitely won't take it lying down." Jonathan nodded, secretly admiring Lucian in his heart. Sean could not have been more secretive, yet Lucian not only guessed his intentions but also responded quickly enough to outman over him. The pair chatted a little longer until Jonathan announced that he had an appointment and needed to leave. Lucian's expression grew grim. He gave a call to Caden and made some arrangements. He completely upgraded the security system of the research institute and added more bodyguards at the research institute, the hospital, and the office. In addition, her vehicle would be inspected every day before she got in. Jonathan arrived at the agreed-upon restaurant at noon. Coralie leaped to her feet with joy and waved both arms enthusiastically to greet him when she saw him. Her infectious charm was evident to many patrons in the restaurant. Jonathan recognized her as the woman who had crashed into him the other night. "Hello, miss. There's no need to spend so much. My car isn't badly damaged, anyway." Jonathan walked over to the table, but he showed no signs of wanting to sit. Coralie beamed, her eyes crinkling. "Think of it as having a meal with me, Mr. Queen. That wouldn't take up too much of your time, would it?" "All right, then." Jonathan nodded and sat down. Having learned about Jonathan's preferences from Frida, Coralie already knew his favorite food in advance. Everything she ordered was something he enjoyed, and that surprised him. "Do you like this dish too, Miss Crawford?" "What a coincidence." "Me too. This place is famous for its beef tenderloins. Are you a local?" As they ate, Coralie felt she was finally bridging the gap between herself and Jonathan. Throughout it all, she never revealed her identity and of course, she would not tell him she had learned about him from Frida. She wanted to make him feel as though they were the perfect match. Out of ideas, Electra arrived aboard the cruise ship. "The plan has failed. Sonia is determined to be a good mother-in-law and won't be suspecting Roxanne at all." Looking dejected, Electra awaited Christina's response. Christina's face contorted with rage. "God damn it! Why did nothing happen to Sonia? She trusts Roxanne so much, doesn't she? Very well, then. We'll have to make Roxanne suspect her," Christina said through gritted teeth, her voice laced with menace. "I'm afraid that won't be easy to do. Your plan has alerted them. Lucian has since increased security around Roxanne. What are you afraid of? We'll start with the children. I have nothing left to lose, anyway. I haven't been afraid of anything for a long time. It was my fault for not being cruel enough to wipe out the 3 little shits earlier. Everything would have been so much better now if I had." Electra felt the hairs on her back stand on end from the cold gust of foreboding rushing to her scalp. She suddenly realized what a grave mistake it was to work with Christina. This woman holds a grudge. Nothing is beneath her at this point. If anything happens, she can just escape back to Hawn to be with her Mr. Goldstein. Electra's eyes darkened for a moment, which made Christina glare at her. "What is it? Are you worried that I'll mess up?" Christina asked in a teasing tone. Electra remained composed. "You said we won't harm them directly. It seems that you're out of ideas." Christina's expression froze, but she quickly gathered herself. Acting against the children is indeed rather idiotic. It's fine if you don't want to go along with it. We'll think of something else. That night, Roxanne finished the broth Sonia made and felt its warmth extend to her heart. Emerging from the study, Lucian hugged her gently from the back. Please have your mother stop cooking for me, Lucian. I'm no longer in pain. Besides, she hasn't fully recovered yet. Roxanne had been having broth for the past few days, and her period had already ended. She knew deep down that Sonia was trying to make amends. However, Sonia's perseverance convinced Roxanne that she had changed her mind regarding her. Perhaps Sonia had really changed. Don't take it to heart. Let her do it since she's willing to. She actually thinks the same way as I do. The Farwell family owes you and the children a great deal. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.